it's Diabetic Danica, and today is my 13th Diaversary! Woo! So as of today, August 27th, 2016, I've had diabetes for 13 years. And that's crazy, that is so long. So I thought, what better way to celebrate than what I'm about to do? So recently, my dad found a bunch of old film, like actual film, that he had never had developed. So he took it and got it developed, and guess what was on there? My diagnosis pictures. And when my dad told me this, I was so surprised because I'm like, I don't even remember him taking pictures at all. So when I was home for a wedding recently, I got to look at them. So I have seen these pictures before, but only one time. I haven't looked at them since. And so I thought I would just go through and kind of talk through the photos and kind of react to them. I haven't seen them since they were taken, except for a week ago. So if you want to kind of listen to my whole diagnosis story, I'm not going to get into the whole thing right now because I have another video called My Diagnosis Story, so I will link that in the description down below if you want to see me talking through the story of my diagnosis. This is just going to be me reacting to the pictures from the diagnosis. So let's get started. So the first time I opened these up, I actually looked at them backwards, so I saw like the last day of my diagnosis and not the first day. So this time I'm going to go in order. So the last picture I look a lot better than this first picture when I'm just obviously not feeling good. I'm scared, it's my first night in the hospital. But my first reaction to seeing these pictures, like me in these pictures, was I was so tiny. Like for some reason, like when you're 11 years old, you just feel older. And I definitely did not feel like I was this tiny, but looking at this picture, I'm like, I am tiny. I was so little when I was diagnosed, this is crazy. So also now being a nurse, I noticed the extremely old hospital bed. But yeah, this is the first picture I have after being diagnosed with diabetes. You can see the greasy hair, the pale face, and it was rough. It was a rough time. I was not happy to be there. And I'm about to eat a meal, so I'm guessing I just got poked in the finger for a blood sugar check and got an insulin shot. So I was probably not too happy about that because, as most of you know, I used to cry at every single poke. Here's just another angle where you can see how tiny I am. You can also see my diabetes, I think it's called Diabetes in Action book or something like that. And I still have that book today. It just gives a lot of different tips and tricks for like sick days, exercise, stuff like that. And I remember that book being really helpful. Here's my dad giving me a hug. My dad and my brother were actually at the fair all day, and so they didn't find out that I was even in the hospital until they got back that night and they got home and heard the message on the machine because back then we didn't really have cell phones, I know. Some people did, but we didn't, so they were not as common back then. I feel so old saying that. But yeah, so they came, met me at the hospital. Obviously they were really worried. But yeah, this is him giving me a hug. And in this picture, I just noticed all the old equipment, honestly, like, I guess some of it's still the same, like the suction is the same, but the IV pump looks really old to me. And I still have that little tiger. That's a tiger that my brother and my dad actually got at the fair for me, and then they had to bring it to the hospital because I was at the hospital. Also, my dad looks like an infant in this. He looks so small. Not literally an infant, but he looks so young. It's crazy. And I definitely remember that ancient TV and it being there. I remember watching educational videos on it of a really overweight old man giving himself a shot in the belly. Like, I completely vividly remember that because it was not very relatable at all. So that's my mom in this picture. Obviously, it was a really hard time for her too. We were both crying frequently. She had a lot to learn about her newly diagnosed diabetic. And that's my grandma as well, who came to visit me. A lot of people came to visit me. I had a lot of aunts, uncles, grandmas, cousins, people visit me. And I just remember I had a whole chair full of stuffed animals, and I think we have a picture of that later, and the nurses would always comment on it. And you can actually see my board, which is really interesting to me now as a nurse as well, because I write these boards now. So you can see my name, who my nurse was, who dad, mom, brother is, that I have to count carbs, that I have to have 2 to 3 snacks a day, my activities, anything I want to do. And I definitely remember this board with the cows on it because my Uncle Frank, when he came to visit me, I vividly remembered this. He made little voices for them, like little speech bubbles of what they were thinking, and I just remember laughing a lot, and that really cheered me up. So there's tiny baby Danica with some more presents from my diagnosis. I still have that red bear as well. And then I can see an educational book in the corner of stuff I have to learn. Oh joy. I'm guessing this is either a nurse or a diabetes educator going through some stuff with me. You can see it's that same book. I'm sure I was loving every second. Also, just seeing the IV pole on that side, I totally remember that random detail too, because I remember when I went up to get to the bathroom, I had to take my IV pole from that side of the bed, bring it all the way around the bed, and go into the bathroom, which was on my right side. And I remember that being a huge thing, and like having to have my mom help me and everything because I was a little girl. So it's just weird to like see it because I remember that little detail. It's bizarre. I also vividly remember this part. So like before I could even see the text on this, when I was looking through these the first time, I was like, this is the dietitian, because I remember her sitting right there in front of me. I remember her having that book and us going through how many carbs I thought I ate for each meal, because back then I was on NPH and Humalog, and so we had to have the same amount of carb every single day for what meal it was. So like say I had 30 for breakfast, 45 for lunch, and 60 for dinner. It had to be like that every single day. So she was like, what do you usually eat for breakfast? And I just remember being like, I don't know, I'm 11. Like what's a typical dinner for you? I'd be like, I don't know. And I just remember not knowing the answer to any of her questions and us filling out this meal plan together. Again, more stuffed animals. I still have that little white bear as well. The pile is growing. Like, look how tiny I am. I can't. I'm gonna say I'm tiny like 40 times. In this picture, you can also see the IV in my right arm. I also very much remember having that because they put it in my AC, which is antecubital right here. And so when you bend your arm, it can occlude it, right? So like you kind of have to keep it straight. And I just remember being so freaked out about my IV that it kept my arm straight for the entire 3 days. And when they finally took it off and I got home, it was like when I would bend my arm, it was so sore. And I was like, I don't think I bent my arm for 3 days. So I feel like I look pretty happy in this picture. You wouldn't really know that it was like one of the worst times of my life. But this next picture you can kind of tell. Again, mealtime. I had just had an insulin shot. I'm sure I cried. I'm sure it hurt. And you can see it plain on my face that I'm not happy. So I'm probably thinking, this food is not worth that shot. And that's my lovely mother. So then this picture is on the 29th. So that is the 3rd day and my last day in the hospital. I also remember this. You can see my hair is clean because I got to shower. And I remember that being a huge thing with the IV and like having to bring it in with me. And I remember my mom just helped me a lot, and she got to even comb out my hair. And I remember thinking it was weird because it was a comb and not a brush, so it took forever. But you can see that I'm probably feeling a lot better. My blood sugars are probably better at this point, and I'm clean. And I'm hugging my little doggy that I got from my Uncle Frank. And I'm up out of bed, which is awesome. So that is the chair that housed all my stuffed animals. That's a small number of them that I'm holding and just chilling. I also still have those socks. Oh my gosh, I did not notice this the first time I went through. I still have those blue nonstick socks. I remember they gave me those because I wanted to walk down the hallway. They had like this giant playroom where you could do crafts, and they had a little movie theater. And I remember walking really slowly and having to drag the IV pole and not liking that. But I did have a lot of fun doing the crafts. But I still have those socks. Dun dun dun, look how happy I look. I am ready to get out of there. Look how cute I am. So this must have been one of the nurses that took care of me the most. Honestly, sadly enough, I wish I did, but I don't remember my nurses really. So I'm sorry, but here's a person. Aw, here's my mama. My mom stayed every single night with me in the hospital. There was, you can kind of see it on the right side, a window seat that she slept in, so I'm sure it was really comfortable. I remember just getting no sleep at night. Like, people would come and check my blood sugar every couple hours, take vital signs, and then just the hallways were super loud and lit, and it was just really hard to sleep, so I'm sure she got no sleep either. More stuffed animal picture. I think that was my ultimate haul. Although that little kitty, which I still have, was the kitty I always slept with. And so when my dad and my brother got the call when they got home from the fair, they brought me a lot of stuff, and so they brought me my kitty to snuggle with, because I was not allowed to go home between my outpatient clinic visit and going to the hospital. They had me go straight to the hospital. Dun dun dun, it's Tiffany! So on my last day, I remember my brother and my dad were coming to the hospital to meet us, and my dad stopped in the hallway and he's like, I have a surprise for you. And being 11-year-old me, for some reason, and also like in my delusional state apparently, I pictured a pony walking into the doorway. What? But out came my best friend Tiffany, and she popped out and she was like, hi, or whatever she said. I don't really remember the details, but I was super excited to see her. I guess she'd been calling me because we used to hang out like every day. We lived around the corner from each other. So she was calling me like every day and she hadn't heard back from me, and I heard later that she thought that I was mad at her. But obviously I was in the hospital. So my dad, when he heard all those messages, he walked over to her house and asked if she wanted to come see me in the hospital. He told her what was going on, and she got to come visit me. And that's my brother Paul. He looks tiny as well. He's like 0 years old, and look how tiny Tiffany is. If you've seen, she's in my Being Friends with the Diabetic video. She's in my Day in the Life video, so I'll link those down below if you want to see her now. We're still best friends. Also, on my last day, they gave me a little like pack of nursey stuff. Like it was like this little cloth doll with different nurse doctor supplies that you could like play with to get you more comfortable with medical equipment. And so she had put on the gloves, and that just shows how tiny we were. Like, it's a regular glove and it's going down to here on her arm. Like, what? There's my mom with all my new diabetes supplies. Whoop whoop. And then leaving the hospital, the grand finale, although not really because it was really just beginning. But yeah, there's Tiffany. Looks like she's carrying out a bag for me, and she still has those gloves on. Paul's carrying out a bag as well, and I am not looking thrilled, but there I am. And my mom has all my presents and my supplies. So obviously it was pretty overwhelming being in the hospital. I remember getting home, well, before that we got pulled over actually. Got pulled over, my mom was just, she told the cop, you know, we just got out of the hospital, I've been in the hospital for 3 days, I'm just really tired, and I'm really sorry. She was following too closely, and they saw our hospital bands and they said, just drive safely, just get home. So we didn't get a ticket or anything, but I remember getting home and sitting on the couch and just feeling like, I don't know, kind of lost and overwhelmed and sad because my entire life had changed, and it just really came out of nowhere, and I felt like there was so much to do, and just knowing that I had to check my blood sugar multiple times every single day, give myself shots every single day multiple times, was a really, really hard pill to swallow. So, and I remember my mom compared it to coming home with a new baby, because suddenly she had a kid that required all this extra care, and we really didn't know what we were doing. We had 3 days of education, but like, is that really enough? So we were just doing the best we could, and then we had multiple classes after that where we went in and learned more about diabetes. And now, here I am today. So I am a registered nurse, I work in a pediatric unit, and I'm working towards becoming a diabetes educator. So it's kind of crazy to just look at these pictures and think back to some of the worst days of my life and to see how far I've come. It's really pretty encouraging to me, and it's just cool to actually see what it was like. It looks, looking at this picture, it looks like a blast from the past, like total 90s, you know what I mean? Although this was 2003, but you know, like just the styles and everything, it just looks so old. And then finally, I am home. That is the pillowcase I made in the craft room at the hospital, which I totally forgot about till I saw this picture, and all my stuffed animals and flowers and all of that, and balloons. So, thank you guys so much for watching. I think this video was super long, but I just really wanted to share that with you. You can kind of get a glimpse at little 11-year-old me and my very first days of learning about diabetes. So, yeah, happy 13 years, and here's to many, many more. And if you're newly diagnosed, just know it does get better. It was so hard for me at first, crying all the time, hating that I had diabetes, and now it's become just a normal part of my everyday life, and I really have embraced it. So stick with it, hang in there, you're gonna be awesome, and I'll be here for you. Thank you so much for watching. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you next time. Bye.